obesity concerns. Less phys ed time is being offered in Ontario schools. Soon there will be fewer phys ed teachers available, with the news that Queen's University is suspending new admissions to its physical and health education program. Queen's isn't the only university making that call. Chris Jones has been closely watching this trend. He is the Executive Director and CEO of Physical and Health Education Canada. We've reached him on the phone now. Good morning.
Good morning, Wei.
What did you think when you heard about Queen's decision?
Well, I don't want to focus unduly on Queen's. They have taken a decision that's based on a conscious choice to pursue more research in the applied health sciences area and to focus on, I guess, what we would call laboratory-based inquiries into biomechanics and exercise physiology, essentially kinesiology. And we think, there's intrinsic value to that. I think my biggest concern is that many of these institutions, and there are others who have dropped their physical education pedagogy programs, that's the science of instructing or how to teach kids, is that as they do that, they're putting out a generation of teacher training candidates going into the school system who are not necessarily equipped to help our children become physically active. So that while there is an admirable focus on, scientific knowledge and biomechanics and that kind of thing, the reality is that the roots of the inactivity crisis are probably psychosocial in nature. A lot of kids are having trouble with motivation, with self-discipline, with confidence, with a whole series of things. And we think that pedagogy, or teaching kids how to do this and how to motivate them, is really the key to unlocking this challenge.
So Queen's isn't the only school then that is getting rid of that program. But they say, though, that there's a declining interest and that there are declining opportunities.
Well, I would want to kind of temper that thought. 80% of the educational institutions in Ontario that have B.Ed programs continue to offer physical education as a teachable subject. So, in fact, I don't want to suggest and be too alarmist here, but we do see this trend towards a belief that, that the sort of laboratory-based type stuff, exercise physiology, etc., is the way ahead. And we think, in fact, that given what we know about the inactivity crisis, about screen addiction, about obesity, these kinds of things, that there are other important factors that must be unlocked in order to get kids active again. And it is a concern because we see, basically physical education being downgraded in the school timetable, in hiring decisions. And so there are other problems here in the system.
Why is that, though? Why are the hours being reduced for phys ed?
Because there's a mistaken belief that there's a false economy, that there's an economy to be had here, which we would suggest is false, that somehow if you save money on physical education, drama, music, etc., that you're going to be able to channel those resources effectively into the teaching of math, science, and English. And somehow those things are more important. Well, we would dispute that assertion and argue that increasingly what we want these days is kids who are self-confident, who have an understanding of motivation, of self-regulation. A lot of the kids that are having trouble in schools these days are having difficulties around impulse control, and physical activity and physical education is the one discipline that can teach them those things.
But isn't physical fitness, physical education, and health something that can be addressed outside of school?
Not in the consistent fashion that is required to impart a body of knowledge that is really necessary. The new physical education curriculum leans heavily on physical literacy, which is trying to teach living skills. It's trying to teach things that we would call affective dimensions, such as confidence, competence, motivation, fun. And unfortunately, kids, when they're away from school, are often spending their time in front of screens, and they are, heavily distracted by the virtual world, and we think that they're losing out on the acquisition of some of those important skills and life skills that they need.
Can you give me an example, Chris, of how a teacher can unlock this? Because you said these specially trained ones are the key. What can they do that another teacher can't?
Well, and I don't want in any way to diminish the importance and the tremendous work that generalist classroom teachers and homeroom teachers do. But we think that the teachers that have been trained in physical education pedagogy have acquired some sort of psychosocial insights that allow them to help kids unlock those healthy living behaviors that we really need right now. There are too many temptations to be sedentary, and the kind of things that the modern day physical education curriculum is teaching and instilling are tremendously valuable. And and it's not just those things. I want to mention as well quickly, we have this notion of health literacy, that we need to teach kids nutritious eating, the importance of sleep habits, healthy and safe sexual practices, emotional and mental resilience. There's a lot that a physical education teacher can teach a kid these days that regrettably they're just not getting under despite the formal commitment in the curriculum to these things, it's just not happening on the ground.
So briefly, if we all have these concerns about childhood obesity and the effects of a sedentary lifestyle on our kids, why aren't we doing more?
Well, because I think we have been told that the primary value out there is the acquisition of certain types of knowledge that are deemed to be commercially valuable. And we understand that. We need to be competitive in the global economy, but not at the price of our kids' long-term health. We know that a lot of the child and youth health dysfunction morphs into adult health dysfunction, and that has huge implications for the healthcare system in the long run. So it's no good being just brilliant at math and numerate, etc., but being unhealthy and unable to self-regulate and look after yourself.
Chris Jones, thanks very much for your perspective on this.
You're welcome.
All right, bye-bye. Chris Jones is Executive Director and CEO of Physical and Health Education Canada. Just last week, 2 women from Strathroy,